Marwa, the big story that we're tracking for you this evening, the horrific story from Uttar Pradesh. Well, there are fresh developments in the case of the pedophile, remember, who's been active for a period of 10 years. My colleague Arvind Gunasekar now joins us with breaking developments. Arvind, you're learning from your sources, and this is very interesting, that all the 50 kids aged between the age group of 5 to 16 were actually all boys. And while, of course, the accused has been taken into custody, what more can you tell us about the investigation?
Yeah, Rishika, the Central Bureau of Investigation has got custody of junior engineer in the UP State Irrigation Department, Ram Bhavan, for allegedly sexually abusing over 50 children in last 10 years. In fact, the Central Bureau of Investigation yesterday arrested this particular accused from Chitrakoot district of UP. After arresting him, the agency produced him before the court, and what we are being told is that the agency has got his custody today. So what our sources in the Central Bureau of Investigation is saying is that the agency, during the brief questioning of Ram Bhavan, has got to know that this particular accused has sexually abused, exploited over 50 boys with the age group of 5 to 15, 5 to 16 in last 10 years. What the agency sources are also telling NDTV is that this particular accused, he had a different modus operandi. That's why he has been escaping from the clutches of law for last 10 years, despite doing one of the heinous crime in the country. In fact, he used to lure the kids with electronic gadgets, and after he used to sexually abuse them and also exploit them. What is also very horrific in this entire crime is that he used to record those videos, and actually that led to his catch. In fact, this particular accused, after sexually abusing those children, he used to record those videos, and then he used to sell those videos over dark web. That trail has actually led to his catch after 10 years despite doing this heinous crime. The agency got a tip-off from a foreign country about this particular accused selling objectionable videos through over dark web, and based on that particular tip-off, the agency narrowed this particular individual and has finally caught him. What our sources are saying is that there are other accomplices of this particular accused, and the agency is trying to track all those accused involved in this particular case, and very soon we can expect more arrests in this particular case.
All right. Also, what's interesting is that the tip-off was got from a country abroad. That's how the CBI even began investigating this particular case. But the big question here is, Arvind, how did this racket, which is now what sources within the CBI are telling you, that they're looking at this entire case as a racket, how could it continue for 10 long years without anybody in the local law and order establishment even getting the slightest hint that it was going on?
Yeah, Rishika, in fact, that's the question that even we asked the sources in the Central Bureau of Investigation. In fact, we asked them, how did this man go uncaught for last 10 years despite doing one of the heinous crime? What they are telling is that this particular accused, he had a completely different modus operandi doing this particular crime. He used to lure those kids, showing his electronic gadgets, giving them the gadgets to play, and also in the name of giving them the electronic gadgets, he used to take them inside his premise, and then he used to sexually abuse them. So most of the kids, they did not actually complain to the particular parent, and that's why this particular case did not come into the public domain. But he got caught when he left the trial while selling those objectionable videos over dark web across the globe. That's how the agency got a tip-off from a foreign country, and based on that, the agency has finally managed to nab him. So agency is looking into two aspects of this particular crime. One, sexually exploiting, abusing over 50 children. Second is selling those objectionable videos over dark web. So there are two aspects to this particular crime. The agency is looking into both the aspect, whether how many accused, how many co-accused, how many accomplices are involved in this particular crime in both the aspect, and also sexually exploiting the kids, right, and also helping this particular accused, this government servant, in selling those objectionable videos over dark web.
So very important update as far as the investigation is concerned, Arvind. What you're telling us is that sources tell you at the moment that there are two different aspects. One, of course, is the sexual assault of these 50 boys that has gone on for the last 10 years. And the other side is, how was this accused, selling this content, this graphic content on the dark web? And how has all of this gone unnoticed? for the last 10 years. Appreciate you, Arvind, very much for joining us with all those details. I want to now open this up for conversation. We have Vikram Singh, the former DGP of Uttar Pradesh, joining us. We also have Mr. Navneet Rajan Vasan, the former Joint Director of the CBI, Kulbir Krishnan, the former DGP and former advisor of the NCPCR, as well as Ranjana Kumari, Director for Center for Social Research, and also a voice for gender equality. Thank you all very much for being with us. Vikram Singh, I want to begin by asking you, how does a crime like this, and explain this to us, what's your assessment, how does a crime like this continue unabated, unchecked for 10 long years? We're talking not about 1, not 5, but 50 boys.
Please understand that this is one of the most horrific and horrendous crimes, and the perpetrators are not illiterate criminals. They are fully trained psychopaths, and they have a mental wiring of a type it will be difficult to find in any criminal of the underworld. They are patient like vultures. They wait for years together to groom, to take them into custody, and then to exploit them sexually. And there is phases in which they work. They are those who have been entrusted with the children. They take care, then in custody, and then after grooming, they blackmail them. Then they are educated people who are able to sell their wares in the dark web and have the capacity to erase their footprints. And also, it is only very seldom that the footprints and the fingerprints are able to expert investigators like the CBI are able to handle that even after years of POCSO is there. But child pornography is punishable internationally like drugs, and therefore international cooperation is necessary. You see, the sale proceeds are such that it has to be with the involvement of multi-agencies. In this case too, I strongly believe that perhaps it is from sister agencies that the tip-off came because of the proceeds of the crime, and then the CBI woke up. I would not say woke up, but it was alert, and then the rest is history. But I would say it is just the tip of the iceberg. The 99% of the investigation is yet to begin.
All right, this just is the tip of the iceberg, and that's what sources within the CBI are saying as well at the moment, that they are in fact not probing one accused, but they are looking at this as a racket, including buyers on the dark web who are also within the ambit of this investigation. But Mr. Vasan, if I can just come to you, the CBI, of course, is probing multiple angles, and the tip-off was actually not, from a local source in Uttar Pradesh where this crime has been taking place for the last 10 years, but the tip-off was actually from a country abroad where this pornographic content was in fact being sold. Does that worry you? The fact that this went on in Uttar Pradesh for 10 long years, completely unchecked.
No, absolutely. It's really worrisome. And let me tell you, most of these cases which have been investigated by CBI and state police forces, in majority of the cases, the tip-offs have come from abroad. We within the country have not been able to keep a check and detect this kind of what should I say? I mean, criminals, the worst kind of criminals which we have, and we have unfortunately not been able to develop a system by which we can keep a watch. And another unfortunate thing is, because the children are aged from 5 to 16 or 5 to 18, most of the young children, even parents, somehow they don't have any idea that their child is being exploited. So there is something wrong, some communication gap. Parents are not able to, because after all, a 6-year-old child is exploited sexually.
Yes.
There will be some repercussions on in psychology which parents or teachers must be able to read at the correct time.
That's a very important point that you're making. Yes.
This is important. And second thing is, these cases, of course, the good thing is that most of the countries outside, they are ready to cooperate. Rather, they are more keen to cooperate. So it's easy to investigate these cases because they provide all kind of evidence. But this is the only one odd case which has come to our notice. And, CBI is not the agency which is supposed to take over all these cases. The local police, the state CIDs have an onerous responsibility of keeping a
Do you then, Mr. Vasan, believe that this is a failure of the local police, the local administration, the fact that this crime went on under their nose for the last 10 years, and the CBI had to get a tip-off from a country abroad to know that this is what's happening in our own backyard?
No, you see, certainly the local police has to play much more proactive role, but then there is a need that police officers need to be trained to detect these kind of offences, because these are offences which are done within the four corners of a house or four corners of a building, you know, and there will be no outside repercussions that you can know that some house has been burgled or something like that.
Unless, of course, there's a complainant.
There is a complainant, and then the police has to be trained. They have to be also trained and provided facility to, you know, keep a watch on the internet that this kind of traffic is going on in the dark web, which we have not been able to do.
Okay, so I think, you know, more vigilance perhaps of what's really happening on the dark web. That's an important point that you make. But, you know, let me just bring this back to the issue of these 50 boys that we're talking about. Kulbir Krishnan, you know, does this worry you when Vikram Singh says that we're perhaps only scratching the surface? You know, do you worry that this could just be the tip of the iceberg? There could be several more cases like this. And, you know, from what we've learned in this particular case is that even though this crime is so horrifying, it's shocking that it was undetected.
No, I entirely agree with Mr. Vikram Singh. It is horrifying and shocking. But what we have to remember is that earlier we were not aware of such offences. POCSO itself is only 8 years old. It came in 2012. Then the National Commission for Protection of Child Rights, right from 2016, has been taking up with UNICEF and with all the state police, etc., the question of child sexual abuse online. And it is largely because of these efforts that in 2019, the CBI set up a special online unit. Plus, in 2018 and 19, India has signed 2 agreements with one body of UK and one body of the USA to share all such kind of child sexual abuse material, you know, or child porn as it is called.
Yes.
And they are able to identify. They are far more advanced than us. In fact, they are the ones who give the tips.
But can we exonerate the local administration, the local police? Can we completely give them a clean chit?
See, no, I'm not giving a clean chit to anybody. What happens is, under POCSO, in every police station, there's a child, welfare police officer.
Yes.
Not below the rank of an ASI. But if you will actually look at the ground situation, and I'm sure Mr. Vikram Singh will bear me out.
Sure.
What happened in my state, for example, when POCSO came, we were simply asked, we were not given one additional manpower. You know, we were not given one officer extra. Suppose there are 500 police stations, 500 officers were designated as child police welfare officers.
Okay.
But they are not trained. They don't know what to do.
That's a very important.
In addition to their other duties, they are doing these things.
That's a very important
point. What is required is that you require.
So when we ask questions of the establishment, I think that's a very important point. When we ask questions of the establishment and we try to look at how a crime like this could go undetected, I think it's important to also understand the context in which these laws are being implemented, the fact that there's complete lack of training that is given to police personnel who are responsible for child protection. Ranjana Kumari, I want to bring you in on another very troubling aspect of this story. You know, all the investigators that we've spoken to, including Mr. Vasan and Vikram Singh, they've both talked about the fact that one of the reasons rather, that this crime went undetected for such a long period of time is because these children in a certain sense were being brainwashed. What we are learning from our sources is that they were rewarded, they were giving electronic devices, gifts, etc., lured to sort of, you know, stay within this net, to not go out and complain. Does that worry you? I mean, the fact that parents and children are not having conversations, the fact that this was a crime that has been unearthed because of a tip-off from another country, not because some child reported it.
Well, sure. I think there is hardly any communication between parents and children regarding sex and sexual activity or giving them any kind of information in schools. There has been so much opposition to sex education in schools that children really are being exploited. You know, what is more worrying is not just lack of communication, but also information and understanding of children themselves about how their bodies are violated, what kind of, things that they must go and talk to parents or teacher, or somebody should identify the symptoms when it happens to them. If they are being shy, they are being quiet. There are so many psychological ways of, kind of identifying. Look, 10 years, we have dark web. many years before that, we have dark web, we have trafficking, we have pedophiles who are exploiting children. Pedophiles are putting all these and selling these videos for 10 years. But look at all the senior police officers in your program saying that we are not equipped, we are not trained.
Yes.
We don't have the force enough to look after such issues. And the other countries are more advanced. I want to know one reason why other countries are more advanced. Because they care for their children. Because they know that child sex abuse is the worst form of crime humanity can experience.
But
as a child, when a child is abused, is scarred for all his life. So they know, they care for the children. But for us, even when we have a child rights commission, even we have a act,
that's the
POCSO,
question.
we have all that, but we are not preparing a separate force of police to get into this training, understanding, and identifying, scanning the all kinds of material which is getting uploaded. Why are we not becoming net savvy? Why
What's
are we
the
not
standing
becoming,
then?
We all know
Yes.
about the dark web.
Yes.
Who doesn't know about the dark
Kulbir
web?
Krishan, come back here for a moment and respond to Ranjana Kumari. What then is the standing of the NCPCR when something like this happens? Where is the NCPCR? What is the kind of role that it can play? Can it play a proactive role? Does it have any powers? I mean, these are all extremely important questions. Like Ranjana Kumari is saying, the reason why countries are so advanced when it comes to dealing with issues concerning pedophilia is because they care.
Yeah, see, even in India, there is a lot of difference between states. Generally speaking, states like Telangana, Kerala, etc. are almost up to date with the rest of the world.
Okay.
While states like UP and Bihar are really, backward. But what NCPCR has been doing is, right from the last 3 years at least, trying to create awareness, running training programs for police officers, especially those who are in the cyber cells, because what happens is the cyber cell is mostly dealing with fraud and money matters. The abuse of children has been relegated to a lower level, which is very unfortunate, and that is what NCPCR has been trying to change.
Right.
The other problem is, in India, for example, parents normally put a lot of scrutiny on the girl child, that she's not molested, she's not harassed, etc. Boys are left to fend for themselves.
Yes, and these are all, these are 50 boys. These are 50 boys. All 50 kids
because
in this
now
case
what
are
is
boys.
happening is that, see, we have to take care of our children, and the only way we can take care of our children is if we inculcate amongst the parents, amongst the police, amongst the social workers,
I think you raise a very important,
NGOs.
I think you raise a very important point. I think you raise a very important point. Mr. Vasan, when it comes to the dark web, when it comes to cyber security, issues of child pornography, pedophilia, this kind of content being circulated is really relegated much low in the pecking order. Is that the problem? Not enough importance is given to crimes like this. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. Not much importance is being given. And let me tell you one thing from my own experience. We are talking about 10 years. I know that we have been able to repatriate, rather deport number of individuals from Chennai and Kerala who were indulging in these kind of activities way back 30, 40 years ago. They were traveling from there and staying for number of days in Goa, in Chennai, in certain towns of Kerala, and exploiting boys and in some odd places even girls. And we have not been able to keep pace with this growing problem. Of course, with the internet coming into being, the problem has increased manifold because you are able to film and sell these and earn money.
Yes.
Earlier, this was being done by foreigners who were coming to our shores and doing these kind of activities. Now, our own people have started doing it and exploiting children. And there not only there is a need to train and equip police officers, but there is also need that we have to educate parents, we have to educate teachers. Also, because that is extremely important, because everywhere police officer cannot be there, even if we provide manpower. He cannot be there. Ultimately, it is, as Ranjana Kumari said, it's a communication between parents and children.
Ranjana Kumari wants to come in. Go ahead.
I want to just say one thing, every time when it is talked about that, police failure or administration failure, we just think that police cannot be posted everywhere. But, when you get this information from abroad, I don't think police is sitting there in every home, every nook and corner of the country. But they set up a system. They set up a system by which they are able to access this kind of information, and then they act on it. And they immediately act on it, and they don't relegate it to the bottommost issue, child pornography and child sexual abuse. I know of US NECMEC,
Yes.
and there are many organizations.
Yes.
It's on the top priority. It is the top agenda for even the companies like Facebook, Twitter. All these big net companies are putting it on the top of their agenda. They will not tolerate zero tolerance for child sexual abuse.
I think
I totally
that's
agree
crucial.
that we think our boys are safe and our girls are not safe.
That's crucial.
Let the parents know that boys are equally unsafe.
Absolutely.
And let the men also communicate this to the other people in society, that as much as girls are unsafe, boys are also unsafe when it comes to predators like these.
I think it's really important what you say, but I want to give Vikram Singh the last word, and I'm completely out of time. Vikram Singh, going forward, what needs to be done? Should this case be made an example of? Should anybody engaging in acts like this be extremely scared after what happens to this accused, or what happens to this racket?
Indeed, this case should be made exemplary, and lessons should be drawn from that. Training, sensitization, as Mr. Kuldeep ji has mentioned, as Ranja Kumari ji said, that this should be the topmost priority. As of now, it does not figure, not in the low priority, Mr. Kuldeep said, it does not figure even in any priority. It should be prioritized, and capacity building of investigators has to be ensured. And police cannot be everywhere, but the police system of intelligence has to be everywhere, and the community policing experiment has to be there, so that the people say, I don't like your face, because every person of the above age of 25 has a face that he or she deserves. And this is what police training is all about.
Yes. Well, I think that's very important point. Thank you all very much.